Hello, I'm Michael Wharton. I'm with the Mixer Community Makerspace. It's good to be here tonight and show you how to do some 3D printing. So this is an overview of how to do 3D printing. It's very simple. First we'll look at how to find 3D models to print. Then we'll look at how to prepare those models for the Prusa slicer, which is the device that prepares it for the printer. And then finally we will look at the last step of setting it up on the 3D printer. So now I'm going to go into showing you some of the better known places to find 3D printing models. The first place I'm going to show you is there's a website called Thingiverse, Thingiverse. It's been around for quite a long time, but it's the place most people in this country probably go pull down their 3D files. And what you'll do in this search bar, you will search for something. In this case, I'm looking for minions. And so if after searching a long time, if I like this particular minion, I can download it and print it. I want to show you some other websites before I do something like that. The other one's called the STL Finder. STL, it stands for Standard Triangulation Language. And it's just a file extension. And again, when you download files, they'll probably be in an STL format. If you're looking for a particular thing to print, like let's say I want to look for a Raspberry Pi case, I can go into here, search for Raspberry Pi case, and what it'll do, it'll look at all the popular websites with STL files, and then you can scroll through here and find out or look at the different designs and then pick the one that you would like to print. Some other ones are My Mini Factory. They have a lot of nice models with for Dungeons and Dragons. Now this is one that some of them you have to pay for and some of them you don't. So let's jump back to Thingiverse. I can look at some pictures of it and just see if it's what I want. So I've got different views of the same model. And then eventually what I'd like to do is I'll download it. And as you'll see right here, there's a download all files. In this particular case, there's just one file. In other cases, you may, like if you're printing out a little motor, it might have several. So now that I've got them downloaded, and then there is my models. Now in this example, I've got several files, and this is not uncommon. Sometimes you might see 2 or more files where people have made revisions, and they usually have a V1 or a V2 or a V3 after it. So once I've downloaded and extracted it, I'm ready to take that and move it to Prusa slicer, which is the device that prepares it for the printer. I've downloaded this little minion right here, and now I'm going to show you how to load this into the slicer. So at the bottom of the screen is this thing called the Prusa slicer, and this is basically what it looks like. I'm holding the mouse down and changing the view of this table. And when we get to the printer, you'll see this same identical sheet with Prusa written on it. I'm going to go to File, Open, where you downloaded the STL files. Here you'll see, here's the STL file. This is the item. So I'm just going to double click on it. And now you can see I've got my model. You have a few options for printing. One of them is if you want to print it fast, or optimum, or detailed, or ultra detailed. Typically, the more detailed, the longer it's going to take. For this demo, I'm just going to use this fast MK3. Once you've done that, you want to make sure it's got generic PLA, and the printer is the original Prusa. Somebody might come in here and change this, but this is what we have here at the mixer. Now this next one is called fill density, and what that is, you can save a lot on the plastic by having a low fill density. And so basically, if this is going to be hollow, it will, well, if it's solid, it won't be completely solid. It'll be reduced by 20%. The other item in here is support. We have three options for support. You can have support, you can have no support. You can have just for the build plate, or you can have it everywhere. And what this is saying is, if you look at this object here, you've got hands that are coming out. And if the printer was to print this, it can't print just out in open space. So you would need to have some kind of supports under the build plate. And so I've enabled that. And then this other option is brim. And basically it puts a little brim around your 3D printed model. So once you set the settings, the next thing we'll do is slice it. And what happens in the slice, it's going through here and determining all the layers for your 3D model. Now if I come over here to preview, this is what it looks like. And remember I put some supports in here? Well, this green area is basically the supports. And I'm basically dragging these little sliders up and down, and I can see the different layers. In fact, this is what 20% in. It's filling it up, but it's not making it solid plastic. So that's a 20% fill density. So you can see it pretty good right here. Anyway, this is so you can examine the model before it's actually printed. And then finally, we have to export it to G-code. Now G-code is just a way to tell the 3D printers how to move their heads and how much plastic to push through. You don't have to do that, it's already been done using the software. These are little SD cards that we use to carry to the 3D printers. We will insert that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an export. Export is popping up. It's asking for a file name. I can just use the original name here, or I can, sometimes I like to put my initials or the date in here, and then you'll save it. Once it's saving, you can see it's writing to this SD card. And this will take about a minute. It depends on how much detail. In fact, this one was actually pretty fast. So once the export's completed, the thing to look out for is this bottom right corner. This is going to show you how long it's estimated to take to print. This one little object takes 2 hours and 34 minutes and 41 seconds. The other thing it shows is how much plastic filament it's using. This is going to use 30 grams of plastic filament. Now, we don't have a scale here at the mixer, but if we had a scale, we could make sure there's enough PLA on our spools to print the job. So with that, I will take my card out, and then I will walk over to my 3D printer and do the last step of printing it. Well, now that we've got the 3D model on our SD card, the next step is to insert it into the side. And what you'll see is it's sorting files. But before we print it, there's some other things we have to do. We have to heat the heads and the bed on this table. And so by pressing this button, I can scroll down to preheat. And then when it preheats, I have three options: PLA, PET, and ABS. Here at the mixer, we pretty much always use PLA. So I'll move it down to PLA. And then as you'll see right here, the temperature on the left is what it currently is, and it's rising up to 215 degrees. And it's currently, the heads are 46 degrees, and it's going to be up to 60. Now while that's happening, and this is optional, you can put this glue on to the bed, like so. Now this is a water-soluble glue. It's what we use here at the mixer. So make sure you get the right kind of glue if you don't use the ones at the mixer. And basically we'll just apply it, and what that does, it helps the 3D print model stick to the base. Some people like to use glue, some people don't. If you're printing something that's very narrow with a very small surface that meets the workspace, the bed right here, then you definitely want to use the glue, because what will happen is when it's printing, it could actually push it off the bed. And that comes from experience and understanding when to use glue or not use glue. Okay, now that the temperatures are up, or almost up, well, I'll hit this enter key right here again, and then I'll scroll down. It says print from SD card. And then what I'll do, it'll show all the STL files on that SD card. More than likely, the most current one's going to be at the top. And so you'll basically select it, hit the enter. It's going to also double check the temperatures. And then the Prusa printer is going to do some calibration. And then if everything checks out right, it'll start printing. And what it's doing, it's coming down. And so one of the things that sometimes happens is this bed comes off, and when people put it back on, they don't put it on straight. So it's checking to make sure everything is in there properly. And then as it finishes its calibration, it basically hits 9 points on the bed. It'll come through here and then start. It'll lay down one layer of PLA, and what you want to make sure is it does lay it. If it doesn't lay anything down or something doesn't look right, well, you may need to stop your job and find out what's happening. But for the most part, this first strip does come on here. Then as you can see, it's printing a perimeter boundary, and this is just showing you where the print job is going to have all the objects. Now, if I just have one object in there, it might be small. In this particular job, I've got 7 or 8 objects in there. And so it's basically does the perimeter, and it's getting ready to put down the first layer. Now, it's important to make sure you do watch the first 5 or 10 minutes of the first layer, because if the first layer does not come down properly, then you may have problems with your print job. Things that could happen, maybe the PLA is not sticking to the bed, which would imply you need some more glue, or the heads are having some issues and the PLA is chipping or pulling or stretching improperly. But the key is just to watch it. You'll know if it's not in there properly or not. And again, that's going to take 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not going to show the whole thing. But if it does have a problem, you have to stop it. And the way to stop it is you hit this enter key. Anyway, I'm going to stop the job. Stop. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You say yes. And then it stops the print. Now, when it does finish printing or during the stop, you'd probably come in here and you'd see your object laying on this table. And what you're going to do to get it off, sometimes you can just pull it off. But the other thing you can do is take this bed off. And as you can see, it's flexible. And so if you've got a big object, just by flexing it a little bit, it'll pop off. Or you can pull this plastic off by your hands. Often you can't. Sometimes you'll have to use a putty knife. The other thing is that glue is water soluble. So when you finish printing, you want to take this into the bathroom, wash off the soap, so the next person who may not want to use glue will have a clean surface to work from. That is the steps. You'll take your SD card, stick it in here. You'll warm up the bed and the heads. You'll select your print. You'll start your print. Once the print's finished, you'll just come in here and pop the object off the bed and clean your workspace, and you'll be all done. Okay, well, thank you. You've seen how to do 3D printing. Very simple. We have to find something to print, set it up in a Prusa printer, print it, and then you're all done. Thank you. This is Michael Wharton with the Community Workspace at Mixer.
Yay!
Mixer Community Workspace. Okay.